this Bloomberg exclusive reporting on the conversation between Steve Witkoff, special envoy here in the U.S. for the president, and Yuri Ushakov, an aide to Russian President Putin. Is this standard form of negotiation? Is this normal diplomacy, especially among non-ally countries?
Well, yes, President Trump used the word standard, but usually what's standard is that you talk to your ally when you are trying to negotiate a ceasefire or an end to a war involving your ally. And Ukraine is the U.S. ally. But here what it looks like is that Witkoff actually, in a way, took Russia's side by telling Russia that they should call Trump prior to the meeting with Zelensky in the White House back in October. So that looks like the U.S. is choosing sides and choosing the wrong side, since it's Russia that attacked Ukraine and Russia that has been an adversary state of the U.S. for many years now.
So in your view, how does it affect peace negotiations?
So it can be very dangerous when you have a negotiator who doesn't understand the war or Russia or Ukraine. And Witkoff worked in real estate in New York. And so he, it seems to me, conceptualizes this conflict as a war over land or territory. And that's not necessarily a crazy assumption. There are a lot of wars over land or territory, but in this case, it's wrong. This is not, Russia doesn't need the land or want the land. What they want to do is destroy Ukrainian sovereignty. And this is Putin's goal. It's been his goal since 2022. And he continues, I believe, to seek that goal. So giving a little bit of land, this is what Witkoff suggested, that we can get to a peace agreement by giving up some territory, some land. It's not really what Russia's interested in.
That is an important distinction, because I think even we say it's about Putin expanding a land grab, right? So the difference is going back to the way USSR, what is it about really for President Putin?
Well,
why is it that Ukraine makes him so frustrating that it has its own independent nation?
Right. So this takes a little bit more time to explain than we have.
Sorry.
But I guess I would say
this is a whole semester, right?
But I would say two things we can sort of summarize is that, number one, Putin wants Ukraine to still be in the neighborhood of Russia and a close ally of Russia, and that means an authoritarian kind of oligarchic state. It doesn't mean a member of the EU or NATO or a democracy or an ally of the US. So keeping the West out of Ukraine is the fundamental goal of Russia.
What is Putin so afraid of? Why is that so important?
Having a large, powerful democracy on the border. And then there's this personal element as well, personal oligarchic friends of Putin who were expelled from positions of power in Ukraine over the past few years, as well as this concept that Ukrainians are not a nation, they're not a separate people, and they don't deserve statehood. They are little brother Slavic little brothers of Russians. So this is why they're kidnapping children and taking Ukrainian children and saying, you're actually Russian.
Does it make you think differently about the U.S. relationship with Russia?
It has worsened the U.S. relationship with Russia. It was already an adversarial relationship, as I mentioned, but now it's much, much worse. We see Americans arrested and used as just pawns in trades that Russia, as political prisoners. We see lack of any kind of diplomacy with regard to other countries in the world or other formerly common interests that the U.S. and Russia shared. So we seem to be entering a kind of deep freeze in relations with Russia, and it doesn't look like a kind of ceasefire or peace agreement is going to change some of those underlying issues.
So, God, here we are in our fourth year on this war. I remember when it broke out. So does it mean that this is a fight to the bitter end? It feels kind of bitter if I look at the devastation in Ukraine, people, places, if you will. So is a peace plan even possible?
So I would say, it's good that the Trump administration is talking.
Yeah.
But the goal of Ukraine and the goal of the U.S. initially was to kind of find a ceasefire agreement and then take the time and the real hard work of diplomacy to reach a peace agreement, a peace treaty. These aren't usually documents or agreements that are reached quickly.
Right.
So a ceasefire agreement would be wonderful. Ukrainians continue to suffer. They continue to die. I was just talking to my Ukrainian friend, and she said that beyond not being able to sleep at night because of the huge number of drone and missile attacks that have increased this summer, she sometimes can't go to the hospital for her medical care because there's no hospitals closed, and you never know when it's open or closed. So there's this, tragic ongoing human element, and there are reasons why both sides might want a ceasefire at the present time, but there's also this kind of intransigent position of Putin, which is the goal to undercut Ukrainian sovereignty and statehood. And I don't think he's moved off that goal because I think he still believes he can make progress on the battlefield.